she cried a lot. I really feel like she's still very, 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 very hurt. We're gonna get right into this because, honey. Hey guys, it's LORENLOROSA and welcome back again to my channel. If you are new here, this is LORENLOROSA TV, where we are living everything Los Angeles, living and making it, honey, in LA. Yeah, subscribe, comment, make sure you click the bell so you know every time I upload a video. So yesterday on Lifetime, Wendy Williams, the Wendy Williams movie premiered, and there was a documentary following the movie that premiered. And I was like watching Twitter react. I'm watching it in real time and reacting, and I was just like, you know what? Like, I don't know, like I was so, first of all, and I tweeted this, despite whatever you want to say about Wendy Williams, you cannot say that she has not carved a legendary lane for herself just by being herself, especially as a Black woman in the space that she's in, on daytime television, in radio. Like, she's really like made this lane that I think a lot of people are trying to come up in. She's opened a lot of doors and leeway for people, but I really think there will never be another Wendy Williams. So the first thing in the movie that we see is just like some background of her, like young Wendy trying to come up, trying to make it in radio. And even before that, young Wendy just trying to find herself and figure out who she was, and you know, going through being like body shamed and just a lot of like BS. And it's really like the suburban girl, you know, small town, big dreams type of thing. I resonated to that, even though I'm not from I'm from the city. I'm from a small state. I'm from Delaware, but I'm from the city. So I feel like a lot of things that, like, they kept talking about how she was kind of like sheltered. A lot of sheltering, that wasn't my life growing up. Wendy Williams' upbringing did not seem like it was like that. And I think that that plays a major role in who she is today. Like, I know I've heard her talk about having like a very like family unit growing up, and growing up in this like small town in Jersey, and kind of like being like one of the people that made it out of that town. But to see it, it was like, okay, now I understand kind of why she moved the way she moved when it came to her career and when it came to her very, very, very toxic marriage, and why she stayed so long and why she exited the way that she did. Seeing her just, you know, from a small town go to New York and conquer, and you know, radio in New York that's a go-to market. Just seeing all of that, I was just like, damn, like, you know, this is inspiring. And it brought me back to the days when like I was younger and in high school and in middle school, and seeing people. I remember listening, like, I'm from Delaware, so Philly, like a lot of our radio stations are Philly. Philly's like 15 minutes away from where I grew up. So I remember hearing Wendy Williams on the radio every day, and just, you know, it just being like a thing of like, oh my God, there's a woman on the radio. Like, and I remember people used to talk about her radio, like her on the radio a lot because of the things she would say. Like, she would go off.
George, Eve, everybody, remember last week when I was telling you that a woman named Eve, what was her name? Saint Gerard. Gerard wrote an article, and she was a guest writer actually in Current magazine, and she really said some awful things about me. You know, basically she was saying that I was a gay basher or something like that, George. And I don't know you know, if I can convince you otherwise, but that certainly is not the case.
Well, Eve gave me a message to give you, okay. And the message was that she did not want to be on the air. She wanted you off the air. That's Eve's perspective. My perspective of the whole situation is that there are a lot of people who agree with Eve, not about the personal attacks, but about the fact that outing people on the air just is not right. It is not acceptable. And it has a lot of rippling effects. It has a lot of effects, and especially on teenagers in school. And I think that's where my main concern is teenagers that go to school who are dealing with their sexuality, who already have a hard time dealing with it, and having to listen to the radio and
hear me out them.
No, well, hear you outing rappers and other people in
I am.
But what do you think?
Who did I out? Who did I out?
Let me just.
Okay.
I'll tell you what. We're going to pay some bills, and we're going to come back and deal with this issue, because it's
the first person that I ever heard on the radio be as extreme as she was Wendy Williams, and then Golden Girl in Philly after that. It just took me back to those days, listening like, damn, this is lit. Like, these women are on the radio. They control the narrative. They control what people talk about. And I'm entertained. Like, she even talked about in the movie how her family was like the family that, like, outwardly they portrayed, they were the image. They were, you know, they looked good. They were a family unit. They were strong. Nothing broke the family. Now I understand, because I remember when, like, even before the news broke about, y'all know I work in media, so I got to cover a lot of the divorce from Kevin Hunter, the baby on the way and stuff like that.
Get everything you're saying? She served him at the studio.
I mean, but you have to think about it now, though. Remember, she came out and she said that she'd been living at the sober home living facility. They've probably been going through a lot and been maybe not as husband and wife under one home for a while. And maybe that's the place where she felt comfortable and safe enough to do it. I remember before all of that, though, like, you would hear little stuff about how horrible he was as a person. And I don't know the man from a can of paint, so I don't know. But these are things that you would hear working in the industry. Like, you would hear that people used to be like, yo, Wendy's so crazy. And a lot of it is because her husband is putting her through hell. And I never understood. I'm like, yo, she's so powerful. She's Wendy Williams. Like, she doesn't need him. She's successful. She has money. Like, leave him. Like, why is she even, like, you know, like, why is she so blindsided? And this was like younger me, you know, a couple years ago. Now, you know, me understanding just how, like, you know, you're in love and you're really trying to save something. I get that aspect of it, but even more, watching her movie yesterday, I really saw that, you know, her upbringing instilled a lot in her that, and I don't know if, like, she thinks about it this way, but for me, looking at it, I felt like the way that she was brought up, it instilled image first, right? So she is this powerful woman. She's a black woman. A lot of the things that she was doing at the time when it came to radio, even her TV show, were not being done. And she talked about a lot of people. She talked bad about a lot of people. So everything was about protecting her own image. And her image at the time was just the successful woman who kind of was like untouchable because she did what she did and she said what she said, but every time she came up successful. And that situation showed us that she was touchable, like, she was human. So before she started to own it herself, I kind of understand now watching the movie why she waited. And I know a big part of it, like she talks about, like, a big part of it was like her son was still in the house, and, you know, like, there was a lot that goes into part when you have a family. And I don't have kids, so I don't know that, like, I don't know how to relate to that perspective of it. But again, in watching the movie, I also understood how hard it was for her to conceive. So I'm sure she worked super hard to make sure her son had a very loving household until he was old enough to understand what was happening and kind of in his own world, so then she could blow up with the world that they were used to and move forward. But let's get into the actor who played Wendy Williams. I believe her name is Sierra Payton, but I want to make sure I'm 100% on that. Yes, Sierra Payton. The interview I watched of Wendy leading up to this movie that mentioned that she had helped handpick Sierra. Y'all did a damn good job. You guys did a really good job. Some people on Twitter were like hating, like they felt like the acting could have been better and blah blah blah, but for the most part I saw all positive reviews and it was well deserved. Like, she did an amazing job really embodying the, like, Wendy was really green for a long time, and when I say green, I mean, like, kind of like she didn't know what the hell was going on. Like, she was very new to this world of, like, entertainment and having to protect herself, and, you know, just, I don't know, like, there was a lot of things that she just didn't. So she was very green, and I feel like Sierra did a good job of displaying her green moments and the moments where she learned, like when she was dating Eric B. And she, like, that's a whole thing. We found out she was, you know, had an abortion after dating Eric B. But in that moment, she was green. She was renting him cars on her credit card, and he was going ham, and her credit was messed up after him. You know, you're not getting a rental car out of me. It's just not happening. Like, I don't care if you give me the money, I'm not putting a rental car in my name. Like, it's just not happening. Like, but I think Sierra did a really good job of showing that, like, showing the journey of Wendy just learning life, like men, the industry, how to navigate the industry, how to navigate being herself on the radio. A lot of my time here, and I've talked about this before, I spent feeling like I had to be very like well packaged and like say what was expected of me and laugh when it was cute, and you know, like very like theatrics, and the theatrics that aren't like just me, like aren't authentic, like very cute, very planned and all that. I still find it a very weird space sometimes to be the person talking about someone's like personal things that are happening publicly, or being the person that's talking about them for the first time to make them public when you break news. So watching her as a, you know, a jock, journalist, whatever you want to call Wendy, personality, watching her when she learned that it worked for her and that she didn't have to like hide that part of herself, really like leaning into it and just like going with it and being herself, that takes a lot of courage, like a lot of courage. So watching her do that, I was just like, wow, like I don't know if everybody else watching it understands, but like this takes a lot out of a person to be that person, because you're attacked for it. And I was expecting them to spend a little bit more time on the celebrities that she rubbed the wrong way, who like really don't care for her anymore. Like I know there has been like I didn't know about the Total thing, so they showed the part where like she was talking about like Total going broke and they showed up outside of the studio, the radio station. I didn't know about that. I really thought that they were going to spend a little bit more time on that, and honestly like I didn't expect for them to like really focus on like the recent ones. I thought it was going to be more of like the historic ones, like the historic instances like that. I mean, they touched on the ones that like you knew they would touch on, like Whitney Houston. Like we knew that was going to be in there. We knew the Puffy stuff was going to be in there. I don't know, y'all, like I really enjoyed the movie. I think they did a good job. I know Shayla Cohen, who, you know, works with Will Packer, was one of the producers on it. Shout out to you, sis. I already told you, you did an amazing job producing this. Okay, so the whole storyline with like the marriage thing and the side chick and the baby and all of that, that was a big part of the storyline. Just like the cheating in general, you know, that was expected, because we've all heard the stories about how he was a cheater, like their whole marriage, and she secured everything she needed to, and when she was ready for things to explode, baby did they explode. And one of the things that I wanted them to kind of touch on a little bit more in this was like, I feel like we didn't, like watching the movie, because there was a movie and a documentary. So watching the movie, I just wanted to hug her. Like I really, because I've been through situations. I've been through very similar, I've been through that situation before. So I can only imagine going through that with 10 and 20 years of, you know, like marriage, like you have a family, like those things are very solid and very permanent. As he was like managing her career, and there was just so much tied into the relationship. So I can't imagine, even in having my own experience, I can't imagine going through that. But even though I felt like I wanted to hug her, I felt like they didn't really, like they showed her going through a lot and I wanted to hug her. So it's gonna sound crazy, because they did show her emotionally, like her breakdown moments and just how hard it was for her. And she was basically fighting by herself, because again, their image comes back into play, and she's Wendy. But I don't know, I feel like there's a lot emotionally that you deal with as a woman when you go through stuff like that. And we've always seen her like be so strong that I thought that we were going to get to see her be a little bit more human, because that was a big part of, for me anyway, I feel like that was a big turning point in her career as well. Like when she came back to her show after all of this stuff, and nobody really knew how she was going to address it. Like she could have just swept it under the rug and act like it didn't happen and moved on. It wouldn't have made any sense, but she could have done it. So nobody really knew, but she didn't decide to do that. But I don't know, I just maybe expected a little bit more time spent with the emotion behind what it took, just how she got over that. And honestly, the documentary that followed the movie, to me, did a better job of painting the fact that like the hurt. And I don't want to just see her hurt, but as me, like as a woman that's like, you know, I'm going through my like career and like real life is happening at the same time, I always be like, yo, I wonder how like people that are like Wendy, right? Like someone as big as her going through things like that, as devastating as that and as public as it was, like I be trying to figure out like how the hell are they getting up and doing this every day and not letting like the walls that are crumbling crumble. But the documentary showed that like she was very emotional in the documentary. She cried a lot. I really feel like she's still very, 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 very hurt. There were parts of the documentary that followed the movie that she couldn't even get through without like breaking down. Like to see it, especially because she's such a star, to see it in the movie, I thought we were gonna get to see that. But none, I really don't think that people even understand, you know, what her career did for like people and like for her, like I mean, we see her living this nice life, but she really hustled. Like she got it out the mud. Like I know people that, you know, don't care for her, don't like the way she goes about what she's doing. I don't agree with everything that she does, but one thing I can take from her is her career. Like she is a legend. Like the documentary was really good also because it has so much real-time footage, so you really felt like you were there with her, you know, in the time, like in the 80s. I feel like the documentary really showed that she really started as like just a girl who just liked entertainment, liked headlines, liked celebrity news, and had this personality, but made it very personal. Like she was literally, you're seeing real life clips of her in addition to the movie of her talking her listeners through her pregnancy. Like Wendy was vlogging on the radio before vlogging was a thing. Like she was connecting with the people so personally that I think that that's why she gained so many people's trust. Like people really entrusted her to have the go-to exclusives, and people believed what she said 100%. She's so smart, yo. Like just watching her, I'm sitting here thinking about like the strategy that it takes to, you know, like kind of envision something and put it into play when people don't understand it, when it's new, when it's first. Like even in her letting you know stuff, there was a lot of stuff she didn't let people know for years, literally until right now. That Eric B thing broke the internet. So Wendy, in the movie, they talk about the time where Wendy was fired in New York and she was given a non-compete where she couldn't work 80 miles within the station that she was working at. And she's like, oh, well, you know what? I'll just go to Philly. She's like, you know what? I gotta get us back to New York. So she reaches out to an old program director at a station. She gets a job back at the station in New York. She had set up a meeting and like, you know, they were still friends. They still kept in contact and kind of worked the deal out for herself, to be honest. But she still allowed Kevin Hunter, who was her husband at the time, to feel as though that play came from him. Said in the documentary that literally until this moment, he never knew that she had already arranged that and just allowed him to feel like he was a part of that. It's so crazy because after everything, like she had found out he was cheating while she was pregnant. I feel like there were certain things that she shouldn't have allotted to him when it came to power and control, because that is what got the wheel spinning on how disrespectful he got in cheating. But it was powerful because it was like, it was a power play. Like, you know what I mean? Like it got her to where she needed to be. It was like all a part of a bigger plan. Like, she's just so smart. My mom was, yeah. But it was also sad though, because I'm like, the fact that she had to make him feel that way, it was just like, I don't know. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. So if you guys are watching this, trying to figure out if you should go and watch it or not, go and watch it. Wendy has a hell of a story to tell. I enjoyed watching it. I watched it twice, the documentary and the movie. Once you guys go watch it, leave your comments below. Let me know how you felt about it. Let me know if you enjoyed it, or even if you didn't enjoy it, let's talk about it, because listen, I was here for it. How you doing?